forecast team is calling for an above-normal season this year. It will likely include 12 to 18 named storms with winds of 39 miles per hour or greater, and of those, we are expecting 6 to 10 hurricanes with winds of at least 74 miles per hour. Of those, 3 to 6 could become major hurricanes, rated categories 3, 4, or 5, with winds of 111 miles per hour or greater. The U.S. was lucky last year. Despite an above-normal season, we did not have significant damage from these storms on U.S. U.S. land. The winds that steer where storms go kept them away from our coastlines. We cannot count on having the same luck this year, and therefore it's vitally important that we be prepared for any hurricanes that might emerge this year.
Another weather forecasting team is predicting an active hurricane season for 2011, calling for an above-average number of storms to form in the Atlantic Hurricane Basin. Earth Network's WeatherBug meteorology team foresees the lower number of expected hurricanes in comparison to 2010, but its numbers are still trending above what is considered to be a normal tropical storm season. Specifically, Earth Networks expects a total of 13 to 14 named storms to form, with 7 to 8 becoming hurricanes. Of those, it expects 4 will become strong enough to be classified at intense storms category 3 or higher on the Saffir-Simpson scale. An average tropical storm season is 10 named storms, 6 hurricanes, and 3 intense hurricanes. While water temperatures in the Atlantic Ocean are warmer than average in key tropical cyclone development areas, they are not as warm as last year, says Earth Network's chief meteorologist Mark Hokassinen. La Nina conditions, which usually favor the formation of tropical storms, are forecasted to weaken throughout the summer. Neutral conditions are expected during the prime hurricane months from August through October. The above-average forecast stems partly from the fact that recent historical patterns show a string of 12 active hurricane seasons. Additionally, previous years with similar climate conditions have been more active than average, the company says. It said similarities to this year's predicted weather to 2008 and 1996 point toward an increased potential for a landfalling hurricane to impact the U.S. this year. So far this year, other forecasters have offered up similar predictions. The Colorado State University forecasters estimate released on April 6 calls for 16 named storms, 9 hurricanes, and 5 intense hurricanes. Weather Services International's WSI Tropical Storm Forecast, released on April 27th, predicts 15 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 4 intense hurricanes. An above-average forecast does not necessarily mean there is a greater likelihood of a hurricane landfall in the U.S. Last year's hurricane season was much above normal, but no hurricanes made landfall in the U.S. WSI continues to expect multiple U.S. hurricane landfalls in 2011. Weather Authority anticipates an active normal season with the Gulf Coast still under the greatest threat, outperforming other primary public forecasters on named storms by 25% since 2006. WSI Weather Services International predicts 15 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 4 intense hurricane category 3 or greater. These 2011 forecast numbers are above the long-term 1950 to 2010 averages of 12 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 intense hurricanes, and match the averages from the more active recent period 1995 to 2010 of August 4, 15. The current forecast numbers are not changed from the April forecast numbers. Most of the important drivers for tropical activity continue to indicate that an active normal season lies ahead of us, said WSI Chief Meteorologist Dr. Todd Crawford. Since the most recent active tropical period began in 1995, we have averaged 15 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 4 intense hurricanes per year. Since tropical Atlantic sea surface temperatures are quite close to the 1995 to 2010 mean values, and since we do not expect either an El Niño or La Niña to develop this summer, our statistical model has output forecast numbers that exactly match those for the current active period, or active normal numbers. We do expect another active season in 2011, although not to the level of 2005 or 2010. However, while we expect less overall activity this year than last, we do expect a much more impactful season along the U.S. coastline. The U.S. has been spared from any landfalling hurricane since 2008. And the hurricane drought in 2009 and 2010 is relatively rare in the historical record. In fact, the U.S. has not had a 3-year stretch without a hurricane landfall since the 1860s. Further, 80% of all years in the historical data set have had at least one hurricane landfall in the U.S. Our recent good fortune in avoiding landfalling hurricanes is not likely to last. Crawford also indicated that the Gulf Coast was under a significant threat for hurricane landfall in the upcoming season. The lack of U.S. landfalls in 2010 was primarily due to a persistent western Atlantic through that essentially protected the U.S. East Coast from any direct hits. We do not expect this feature to be in place this year during late summer and fall when most tropical storms occur. Further, the Gulf and Caribbean sea surface temperatures are particularly warm this year, and we expect more development in these regions and less in the eastern tropical Atlantic. Storms developing in the Gulf and Caribbean are a much greater threat to make landfall along the U.S. coast than those that develop off the coast of Africa. For this reason, and since our hurricane landfall prediction model suggests sharply increased chances of U.S. landfall in 2011, especially in the western Gulf states, we expect 2 or 3 landfalling hurricanes this season. This is not particularly unusual, since historically 43% of years have had multiple hurricane landfalls. The forecast numbers from our model are quite similar to those prior to the 2008 season, when Hurricanes Polly, Gustav, and Ike impacted Louisiana and Texas.
I'm Bill Reed, Director of NOAA's National Hurricane Center in Miami. Surviving a hurricane all comes down to planning well before a storm arrives. Have a hurricane plan in place, know the types of hazards that could affect your family, and know your home's vulnerability to storm surge, flooding, and wind. Find out if you're in an evacuation zone and have an escape route plan. Assemble a disaster supply kit. Have enough water, non-perishable food, medication to last at least a week. When a watch is issued, the onset of tropical storm force winds are possible within 48 hours. Check your disaster supply kit to make sure nothing is missing. Activate your hurricane plan. You may need the extra time to secure your boat. A warning means the onset of tropical storm force winds is expected within 36 hours. Be ready to use your disaster supply kit and take it with you if told to evacuate. Close up storm shutters and remain in a safe place throughout the storm. When the storm is over, don't be a sightseer. If you do venture outdoors, watch out for flooded roads and downed power lines. Wait until an area is declared safe before entering. Be prepared this hurricane season. For more information, visit our website at hurricanes.gov.